Back working on the 350 Sidekick again. I got about a week off, so I'm gonna try and see if I can get her finished up. I doubt I'll get the drive shaft part, but I'm gonna try and get everything else ready so it just needs a drive shaft, and then it's good to drive around the yard kind of thing. All up on blocks there now, so just gotta do the shake test. Oh yeah, solid enough. Transmission coolies are overrated. There we go. Now the transmission won't be bleeding no more. Well, under the hood's basically done, but thought I'd show a closer look under here. It's amazing how well it fits. Like, you can get up to all the spark plugs pretty easy, right? Good bit of hand and get a ratchet. This side's a little tighter, but it's mainly because this little equalizer valve BS. Yeah, you can still get the spark plugs pretty easy. I'm gonna put a little plate, like once I build the doghouse back here, I'll put a little plate that's removable so you can get to the distributor easier. Like, it just sits in there nice. Couldn't fit a rad, but who cares? While I'm under here, I might as well show my fabricable transmission mount there. That's the stock cross member for the Suzuki, and then that's just a bunch of angle iron that's all bird shit welded on there, with two bolts that have no washers and they're crooked. But it holds it on, like the transmission's on there solid, so who cares? I had to brace it all up because it was like flexing because of the extra weight. This is how I'm running the coolant. This is 1.5 inch exhaust hose. I still have to do the other side, coming from the top end. But it comes up here, up, and up to the radiator up there, just above the diff. Just making the second coolant line. The way I normally do it is I just cut 45 and you put her to there, and then you weld her up right here and just fill that right full. But what I'm going to try and do is just bend it here and then weld around, so it should be an easier weld. I know you're supposed to cut whatever angle you have to do in half and then put the two pipes together and they perfectly mate. Turned out pretty okay, but now I get to do the leak test and find out that my welds aren't worth a shit. Things are going pretty good. That one passed the leak test there, so put her all in. I got all the hoses I need, they're all put together. I had to go on a scavenger hunt to get the hose clamps I needed because I'm not going to town at this time of day because everybody's going to be closed. So this sucker had to make a sacrifice, the old 454. I might do something with this sucker one day. It was on the road 8 years ago apparently, but I don't know if I trust that. As I was putting the clamps in here, I had a look at the welds I did last year. I assume no responsibility for past Alex. Horrible welding job. I'm just not going to look anymore, and I'm just going to run it. I had to grab some used haywire because, well, I don't know really what happened, but I must have got hungry last night when I was working on my car and ate the whole roll because I can't find it for the life of me. So the old stuff will hold everything together. It'll be fine. Before I put coolant in it, I just thought I'll put the fuel tank in and do all that so that I can fill the fuel tank and then run the motor and let it idle and get up to temp. I'm probably going to be putting a ratchet strap like right there just to help hold this sucker up. So if I do get her on the highway, she don't just, you know, fall and then stays behind and the machine keeps going forwards. Well, I have a stick in my hand here. You might be wondering why. Well, I forgot that Suzuki has a body lift, and I didn't have the right hose for the filler neck for the fuel tank. So I'm going to the Black Parts Suzuki to grab one, because I know it's in there on the back seat. You're wrong. But the problem is, there's a wasp nest in there. That's what the stick's for. Well, it didn't go too good. Couldn't get the wasps out of my way, so I'm going to have to forget about that tonight. Got some fuel in there now. I just did this as a temporary thing. I got all the lines. So now I'll jump some power from my little fuse box. Well, not fuse box. This little fuse thing I'd put just under the dash here to the red and black wire that comes out up over there in the wiring harness that I cut. Just steal the battery out of the old purple one here. Let's see. Positive. Okay, let's see if we can hear the fuel pump going now. I don't know if you can hear it, but that was the fuel pump giving her. absolutely pouring fuel out. So that pump's building too much pressure and the lines aren't holding it back. So as you can see there, my return line's older than the hills. And it's split. That's what the big leak was. But this one here is still leaking when it's over-connected to the hard line down there. Just can't get that little shit right there to seal. It's dripping. Yeah, like that. Well, day number 2. I hit that same line there with a quick, just to rough it up. Hopefully it seals better. I think it will, because the line had more trouble going on. Guess we'll see in a second. Time to listen for leaks. She ain't dripping. Well, that one of the front sealed, so that's sweet. But now we got to seal up in there. This one right off the tank there. I think you can just barely see her. She's leaking the same way, so I'll hit her with the same trick and see if that does it. Looks like she's all sealing, so fire her up again this morning and let her run a little bit and then check for leaks. Nothing there. Nothing out the back. Sweet. Just thought I might check the oil here, because if I remember correctly, I poured about half a crush can into this old girl as a joke when my buddy was here once. That oil smells a lot like gas. It's definitely just this old girl, because that's the only thing it could be, unless the cylinders are blowing by so bad that the gasoline coming from the carb or just, you know, going to the oil pan. But we're going to ignore that for now and just keep testing. Why don't we give her a rev for once? Oh, come on. Sweet, it's sucking its own fuel. Yeah, I didn't have the fuel pump hooked up and she was running, so I guess we'll just use that as a primer. So maybe I'll just put that on like a push button like this one, so just prime her up and then fire it up, you know, kind of thing. Timing's way off because I accidentally bumped the distributor when I was pulling the motor.
Sometimes shit happens, someone has to deal with it.
And then I tuned it back roughly where it was, but I'll perfectly tune that later. Don't care too much about this motor right now anyways, like... It's supposed to be low kilometer engine, but I guess I'll see. I wired up the fuel pump to this switch and then a oil warning light like the one from factory. Just hook her up right there to the little sensor. I think now I'm gonna start filling the coolant. Got the cap off there. Just the garden hose don't reach all the way here, so I'll see if I can find an extension or some sort of something. So far, only one leak. Just this sucker right here. Right off the old crappy rod. Gobbered the JB on there. Now we should be good to go. Well, still gotta wait 10 minutes. Or they say 6 minutes, but I'll wait 10. This gauge is a 0 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit gauge. I just jammed it in there. Like, and then I hit it with that JB weld. Just to plug that old heater core hose hole. I mean, it's sealing. We'll see what it does once the coolant gets warm. Guess that'll be the test for everything. So we'll see if she holds up or not. If it holds water all good, I'll let her circulate with the motor and let her idle. Right full of coolant. We'll just let her idle until she starts getting a little warm. Uh-oh. Starting to get a little choppy here. big bubble in the system, of course, inside the motor, so she had no coolant there when she was running. It's fine. So I'll just leave this open and then fill it up. And then once the water starts coming out of here, then I'll hook it back up, and then it should properly do its thing. I should have thought of this. I've worked on Volkswagens. It's kind of similar. There's so many coolant lines going everywhere that air just stays in the motor. Okay, now there's actually coolant in the motor, so we should be safe to run it for a longer period of time. My temp gauge I was like, man, it should be going up soon. And then, yeah, like, it's doing what it's doing now. Sunday was there. It was staying really steady. I was like, uh-oh. I don't think that's water temp. Now we actually have heat coming to the radiator. I can say that it's circulating water. I didn't bring it up to temp. Like, I got it to 140 and I shut it off. Alternator's charging. I mean, it ain't running great because of timing, right? But figured that out. Definitely running rich. You can smell it. But it's also running on partially old gas. So the smell might be deceiving. So far, the rad ain't leaking. Because so the rad was at about 120, motor at 140, which makes sense. You got heat loss between there and then. But yeah, I'm pretty happy. I guess I'll do a oil change on the motor since it probably needs that because it smells like gas, the fuel. Might have to change that fuel pump. We'll see, I guess. They didn't have none of the Wasp killer in town, which is fine, I guess. Because now, we're going to get to do some testing of products here on the Wasp nest. Well, that didn't work, so I gathered all the tools for Plan D. Well, next day now, but the fire worked.
You burned my house to the ground! My family's dead! What do I do?
I mean, I almost lit this parts of the vehicle on fire, but that's fine. But then the part that I thought I would get out of here wasn't in here, so it turns out I do have to go to town. Like, I don't know where. It's fine. Might as well fire it up this morning. Well, I rigged up this little stick here for a shifter. So right there is all the way down to park. Like I just put, it's just off that. Right there is a normal thing for the linkage on the transmission. And that's one of those U-hooks that you'd screw into like some wood to hang something. But this one's actually got real threads, so, you know, that's how it's gonna do that. But I guess it's more for testing. Like I'll actually build my own little like up and down shift thing, since the shift linkage, like special little things, are so expensive. I'd put this in so you can see your drive shaft. Like that's the back of the transmission, right? I place a brake line because brakes are kind of necessary.
Jesse, don't do it.
You don't have any brakes on this car.
Where's Jesse going?
Shit!
I'm kind of at a standstill because I need parts, and I ain't got a driver's license to go get parts. So the drive shaft, I'm gonna get local machinist shop to make me a bushing. So, because my plan's like, this is the Suzuki one. This is the one off that goes to the back of the transmission, the Chevy. If I get a bushing to adapt this one onto here, like a snug fit, and then I can go under there and mock it up, like the distance that I need with the bushing in there, like slide it to where I need to be, and then weld it up, tack it, pull it out, full weld it kind of thing, right? And then the drive shaft would be done that way. Instead of the machinist shop getting the measurements for me and then potentially doing it wrong because they're not looking at, you know, what I'm seeing kind of thing. If I get the wrong measurements to them, if you know what I mean.